So we're gonna install this Fass system as well as this H&S billet fuel bowl on Tron, which is 2020 GMC Sierra 2500 or 3500. It's a 1-ton. First step is making sure you have everything. Check online, make sure you have everything that came with your Fass kit. Also get yourself a fuel filter, because the first thing you're gonna do is remove the fuel water separator right here. There's an 1 7/16 or 35 millimeter, I believe. So let's get that draining. Now after your fuel filter or fuel bowl is out, you gotta disconnect both lines on each side and the connector on top. So for the blue connector, you're gonna push the little tab. It's kind of hard to tell. This little tab up top, it's a part of it. You're gonna push it up and then push this piece down and pull out at the same time. On the other side, you're just gonna push this white connector out and then push in and pull out. It's fairly simple. It's kind of a pain because it's a really tight spot, and then just disconnect the connector up top. Now you're gonna come to your outside frame rail, and not this hole, but the one above it. There's a bolt that you gotta loosen, and you come over to this wiring harness. There's a bolt there. You're gonna push this one up a little bit. It's hard to tell, but there's a bolt in there. We'll lift the wiring harness up at the same time. But yeah, all you gotta do is loosen those bolts. Well, after you have it pulled back and kind of out of the frame rail a little bit, it won't drop down. So what you gotta do is remove these two nuts, which are 13 millimeter. I highly suggest using a ratcheting wrench. So after you unbolt it, you just slide this up and it all comes apart. Next step is unbolting this from the top of the filter housing. This is your WIF sensor, your water and fuel sensor. They are T30 Torx. So unscrew that and get that off. So we've now moved over to the vise. We're gonna take the old O-ring off, install the new one using whatever O-ring lube you guys like. So whatever's preferred, and then we'll get it installed on here, make sure it's clocked the right way, and I'll show you guys after. Make sure you start your new Allen screws by hand using a 4 millimeter Allen. I'm using a socket. Just make sure they're snug by hand too. Go in a circular motion, make sure they're all snug. And then what I'll do is I'll use my ratchet to give them a quick snug and make sure they're all set. Next, you're gonna install this fitting into here. It's out of the green bag. I put O-ring lube on it just to be safe, and then snugged it up with the crescent wrench. And we're gonna put this one out of the blue bag into this side here. Next, you're gonna put these countersunk bolts or screws, whatever you wanna call them, into this plate with your spacers. And you're gonna drop it right into here and tighten it using a 6 millimeter Allen head, just like that. Now you're gonna take your 3 carriage bolts. You're gonna put them upside down through the bracket like this. Put your nuts on all 3 of them. That's how it's gonna mount to the frame. Then you're gonna take this brass little fitting here, put some thread tape on it, and then tighten it into this fitting using 11 millimeter or 7/16. Then it should look something like this. Then you're gonna put a little bit of O-ring lube on this and shove this hose on it. Then you're gonna go back over to the truck and disconnect the hard line from the plastic line, the yellow retainer, and it removes just like the blue line did earlier. Then you're gonna put this piece you just put together and put it where you just removed the lines, following the male to female and female to male. And it should look something like that. Make sure they're all clicked in. Make sure you put the retainer back how it was, and make sure it can't come apart. Next is reinstalling the Fass system. They say it's easier if you remove the fuel bowl section. I was able to get it in there. Not too big of a struggle, so now it's just setting in place. Now I can tighten the bolts. Before you connect this fitting, make sure you put the line on that you disconnected from the first housing, and then put your hose, your return hose, on this before you install it. Now we're gonna take this hose and these 2 fittings and put them together. Basically, one end goes on one end, the other end goes on the other. It's pretty simple. Once you got it together, it should look something like this. You're gonna use your hose clamp on the plastic piece, and then no hose clamp on the blue aluminum piece. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna connect this to your Fass system, and then this is gonna go to that blue disconnect that we took off first from our fuel lines. And then once you have it all connected, it should be it for your Fass system. After you get it all installed, it should look a little something like that. All the lines lines are connected where they should be. Now all that's left is put the filters on. Let's get into that. For the stock fuel bowl, we decided to go with this H&S billet aluminum fuel bowl because the stock bowls are prone to cracking. I just want to make sure it's safe. So let's get this thing all put together. It looks pretty simple. We got extra O-rings in here. We got one already installed on it. Put some O-ring lube on it, install it into here, put the big O-ring on for the filter, install the filter, prime it, and put it on. And I like to pre-fill my filters with diesel additive. I don't fill them all the way up, but just enough so that it doesn't take all day to prime the system. I'll show you how to prime them here shortly. Just like that. Make sure your O-rings are lubed with either O-ring grease or oil. The H&S billet just looks absolutely amazing. You can only tighten it so far, so don't try and reef on it. Once it's snug, it is snug. It's not going anywhere. And I like to just hand tighten my fuel filter from Fass. That's how I tighten every filter. Never has a problem with it. And let's get to priming it. Now I'm going to show you the priming process on the fuel pump. If you have a remote start like this truck, what you're going to do is press the push to start and hold it for 10 seconds until your display turns on. Just like that. And you should hear
for daily digestive health using a special plant-based
your pump running. Once the pump runs for about 45 seconds, it'll turn off. Then you're going to turn off the push to start and do it again 6 to 8 times. In between cycles, I like to wait 45 seconds to a minute. That way it has time to reset. And if you don't have the push to start, what you're going to do is just turn your key to the on position, and that should have your pump running as well for about a minute or so. Sometimes it takes longer. You just want to sit down by the pump itself and hear it, and then you should be good to turn the key off once it's done. Wait another 45 seconds, turn it back on, and so on and so forth. Do not start the truck until you've primed it at least 4 times. I like to do 6 to 8 just because it's on the safe side.